Morning or afternoon, I think it is here. Um, Hello, it's Michelle Denton, and I'm from the West Nebraska Arts Center, and we're going to have another video today. This one's a little bit different. This one's going to be on light and shadow. And so I took a Christmas ball and I spray painted it white and I put it on a board and we've got a light. So we're going to switch over and let you guys have a look at the Christmas bulb here. So we're going to talk a little bit about today, if you're going to be drawing this, a sphere. Whoops, I think that's pretty good. There's different lights and shadows that are very significant. So when we look at it, the light source is coming from probably right about there. So that's going to be the lightest place on your drawing. That's a highlight. There is another area that is called the midtone. And it's about in here, this area. And then we've got a core shadow, which is a little bit deeper. So that's the core shadow. And then if you I don't know if you can kind of see it, but right along here, it's a little bit lighter. That's reflected light. And on the board is your cast shadow. So we're going to try to draw that today. And I've got a drawing that I started the other night, just a little bit easier to see. So when we were talking about the highlight, that means where your light source is, if it's a sun, if it's a light in your bedroom, if it's overhead light, you've got the lightest place on the sphere right here. And then when you're talking about the midtone, it's a section, and see how it kind of goes with the curve of the ball is the midtone. And then this core shadow, this right here, I drew in a line for the table. So this core shadow is really the darkest one right here along the bottom. And then we had that little bit of reflected light right where it touches the table. And underneath, here's that cast shadow. So remember these words when we're talking about the form, creating the form, all of the you don't have to remember the words forever, but remember the highlight, that's a good word, midtone, the core shadow, reflected light right along the bottom where it bounces off the table and it shows just a little bit on the bottom, and then that cast shadow. So when I started, I just took, if you're going to start, you're going to draw your sphere, I just took a tape and drew my circle in. Or you can use a glass or a protractor. And then I took, because the light is going to have a band that strikes the side of that ball, I took my ruler and went to the edge of the table there. And then the top up here. And so remember, we're going to have that highlight. And then we're going to have that mid-range, and then the core shadow, and then that reflected light along the bottom. And then you're going to have that cast shadow on there. This one, I extended it a little bit past because when you're drawing, you might see the change in the color even against the table and stuff. And so you might have to take that into consideration also. So we are going to draw a little bit. I'm going to show you how to shade. So if I'm holding my pencil, instead of holding it like this and trying to, make your lines, it is easiest to make a smooth line by laying your pencil, not having a super sharp pencil. See, I guess this will work. But just lay it sideways. Hold it like this. Now you know that that top is going to be the lightest. So you don't want to make that too dark. Well, that pencil's not cooperating with me too great. I'm going to do it really lightly. And then I'm going to make this a little bit darker, going with the shape of the ball. or sphere or apple, whatever you've got, orange. Then I'm going to make it a little darker. Come on, pencil. Kind of hard for me drawing out here on the edge like this, but we'll figure it out. I'm going to make that a little darker right there where that foreshadow was. And then we have that mid-tone. And then that highlight's right at the top there, where your light is striking your ball. Then down here is that cast shadow. So if I fill all that in, then there's a couple ways to blend this. If you could take your time, you could just do it with a pencil. But I have found that there's a little blending stump that you can use. And you can see how that really helps smooth things out. Now this gets dark on the bottom of it. So you can see if I went somewhere where it was really light, I would transfer all that graphite onto your paper. So you want to be careful to kind of protect that highlight area so you don't get it all full of graphite just by going over it. And I'm going to get down here at this cast shadow. Now I've kind of covered up what we called about that bounce light. So what I can do is take my pencil and the reflected light, I can just go back in and kind of make that back in there a little bit. And if it gets a little bit too dark up here, you could take your eraser again and kind of create more of a highlight at the top. Now, if you don't have one of these blending stumps, which you can get them at Hobby Lobby, people have made them out of newspaper rolled up too. But you could also use just a paper towel and blend things. And then I'm going to go back in and make my cast shadow. The cast shadow is, I cast it onto the table. Clean up all my areas here. Make that highlight just a little bit lighter. Now I got to be careful. If I swished it off with my hand or something, a paintbrush should probably be better. You could almost move that. So that's kind of how you would form a ball and make this a little bit darker in here. So got a little bit too dark. Anyway, blend your edges. We talked about that. So once again, draw your circle. Set your ball on the table. Don't draw through the ball, skip up through there. Put your cast shadow on there, your highlight area, your mid-tone, and your core tone there, core value right there. And then remember that little cast shadow, the reflected light. And we'll go over the colors in the, once again, your highlight, mid-tone, your core, your little reflected light right here at the bottom, and then your cast shadow. So remember, if you need to, if you've colored that all in, you can always go back through with your eraser and clean up that edge. And then you can always go back in and make this darker, back and forth and back and forth. So I want you to try that. One thing I have to do before we go, though, like we always do, is thank our great sponsors, the Nebraska Arts Council, Nebraska Cultural Endowment, the National Endowment for the Arts, and Scottsbluff Public Schools. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.